This video is about the corporate greed scale versus the pure moral-based martial artist scale. Unfortunately, we live in a society that is so ignorant, so beyond foolish, that I have to explain that morality is a requirement for wisdom. It's unbelievable, really. And it has to do with the difference between the average martial artist who has a philosophy that's compatible with the West. They reach out to people who have shared cultural values with themselves to teach them a form of martial arts that's compatible with a Western philosophy, ultimately a corporate philosophy. So they basically also have a scale of corporate greed. So you can't look at it in terms of martial arts alone or think that I'm a Buddhist. I'm not. Okay, all these guys have a scale that is also compatible with the corporate greed scale. Okay, where I have the pure moral-based martial artist scale. So let's talk about psychological operations. Who is allowed to run them and why? Well, we see that Michael Aquino, right? He's a colonel. But in this video, I'm going to talk about Hakeem Eisler. Okay, it is in this issue of recoil off-grid chemical warfare tools and techniques to protect you from an attack on U.S. soil. In my videos, I talk about them fuming me and drugging me. So lo and behold, in this magazine, there is an article. It won't happen to me. The disaster of denying disaster. Isn't that a very ironic title for the article? Okay. The disaster of denying disaster. It won't happen to me. Okay. That's strange. And the author, when we go to page 63, Hakeem Eisler, a former psychological sergeant with the U.S. Army. Hakeem Eisler is the designer of several wilderness survival products and the owner of Elevo Dynamics, the first doujin, a 24-hour gym and martial arts facility in the United States. He is also the founder of the Soil Foundation, a nonprofit that offers off-grid training and excursions to help veterans, law enforcement, and civilians recover from anxiety, depression, and PTSD. Eisler is a 4th-degree black belt in To Shin Do. Now, when you look at my last challenger, okay, I have a clip of me doing a demonstration on a guy that looks damn near identical to this guy on top of everything else. It takes a fool to think that that doesn't strongly and extremely indicate that not only am I correct about the psyops and the tactics they use and their motivations, including ideas of martial arts prowess and excellence, but this guy's family perhaps could even be involved in the psyop against me. Also, take note of his figure, his posture, and the look in his eyes, right? Who does he train? He trains people, for the most part, with body types like his, is the logical assumption, right? He trains military, police, right? So not only is he a martial artist who on some point, to some degree, is vying for respect with me, whether people want to admit it that that's how it is or not. But he has the figure of the military hill. He was a sergeant in the U.S. Army Psychological Operations Unit, you know. One of them, at least. So now let's look at the purpose of this drugging, shall we? Temporal lobe seizures claim. So to cover up what they're doing, which is obviously, I have 15 fucking witnesses, okay, on top of everything else. There is such an abundance of evidence, recorded evidence, witnesses, okay, the proof that they've damaged my eyes and so on. So why did they do it? What is their angle? It's the temporal lobe seizure claim. Now remember, seizure medication is also known to cause the same symptoms that they attempt to treat. So even if you're insane and you were to pretend that I'm not correct about the psyop, you then have to see the logical assumption is that the medicine did it to me, if nothing else. So no matter how you slice it, I'm right to a dramatic degree. Western culture ignored it, turned a blind eye to it, to all the videos, okay? And they caused me damage and ruined my social life and so on and so forth in a way that I can't even sue them and get any kind of compensation. On top of that, that's how immoral, depraved, and utterly despicable American culture is. Certainly it is a product and is the baby of Western culture. Like father, like son, so to speak. They can't beat me sparring. What does that say about functionality? That takes away from the argument that this temporal lobe seizures is causing me problems. It takes a delusional fuck not to see that the martial artist is focused in a superior manner. That means he lives more in reality, not less. When we see crazy people on the street, they're unfocused. I've gone over this time and time again. I have 15 witnesses, including witnesses to them slowing my videos down, not just fuming me and drugging me through the drinks. Okay? The Depakote argument. The long-term memories, primary auditory cortex, the processing semantics in speech and vision, comprehension, naming, and verbal memory, emotions. Okay? These are all parts of the temporal lobe. And right now, yes, they are fuming me to cause that effect. You're an idiot if you don't see it my way. You are so out of touch with reality if you don't see it my way. I don't even know where to begin. Okay? It's insane. And yes, if you take that route, it logically leads to me challenging your intelligence and the scales of intelligence in Western culture, which are accepted by the media. But anyway, we look at the history of experiments to induce mental illness on top of that. Even if they didn't have this on record history, it is logically what you would expect from psychological units and propaganda campaigns. But they have a long history of doing experiments to induce schizophrenia, the LSD experiments and so on, and bipolar disorder, which also has the same drug treatment as temporal lobe seizures, a seizure disorder in the temporal lobe, Depakote. You can't make this shit up. Let's not forget white mainstream denial as a socially normative argument spread by the media on top of that, which establishes social norms. If you don't connect the media and social media to social norms, you're insane. White mainstream denial exposed by mainstream groups. And what is psychiatry? What, did Africans make it? Perhaps Aboriginals. It is a white science that drugs people based on social norms, which were at least partially established by white denial. What, are you an idiot? If you think that white denial doesn't exist, oh boy, you think murderers confess to it? Corrupt cops confess to it? Perhaps the people who beat up Rodney King before they were caught on camera, signed a confession. Obviously, there's institutional racism and systematic abuses, and obviously people deny them, and they deny them for political gain. And this is just one obvious, undeniable form of it. You're just a moron if you think, I don't know how to deal with idiots like that. Anyway, so basically what we see is this denial is also mainstream denial, which is also taken on by the left, who also have a form of white culture, right? White denial is not just for conservative Christians. It is also for crazed, feminists and token minorities on the left, okay? And they're all their allies, right? Their party line is a form of white denial as well. But I don't have time to go over that. It's stupid if you don't see that way. I'm not going to waste my time explaining it. I'm not going to dignify that with a further explanation. It's obvious that that's how it is. And any opposition view argument is just a fucking moron. And that's going to bring me back to questioning your intelligence. If you don't see it that way, are you stupid or cowardly? And of course, that goes back to morality as a requirement for wisdom. You can't be moral if you're a coward. Do the right thing. Why won't you? Oh, because you're a scared little bitch. Obviously, it goes back to cowardice if you're immoral. So this is basically the corporate greed and corporate cowards scale. Take care of your responsibilities on the highest level first, before your family. Your responsibility, with much power comes much responsibility. You're in a position of power. You cannot morally put your family above everyone else. You influence everyone else too much for that. And if you can't handle that, I suggest you pick up a mop and donate your money to charity or something. You stupid fuck. Anyway, most people are aware of the Nazi science that went into psychiatry. Franz Kallmann, a major figure in psychiatry, a biological psychiatrist, studied under Nazis. Okay, so when we look at, and he was a Jew, ironically. It gets quite complicated. And we look at also the books that I'm reading and that I have read. The Saboteur, right? This is actually by a media guy himself. Paul Kix is a deputy director at ESPN, the magazine. His work has appeared in the New Yorker, GQ, New York, Men's Journal, and the Wall Street Journal, among others. This is his first book. He lives in Connecticut, and so on and so forth. Okay, this is a media, and to me, he looks like some kind of a Jew, right? Okay, it matters because he's pretty much telling his story of something that Jews are interested in, and he's a media person, and it has a profound effect on our society. Okay, The Saboteur. Okay, by a psychiatrist, the CIA doctors, by a Harvard graduate, Adam Cohen, a graduate of Harvard Law School. He was president of volume 100 of the Harvard Law Review. Okay, the history of eugenics. I cited this many, many times. I've taken pictures of the pages and so on and so forth. Okay, and for good measure, we have a feminist perspective. ESPN talking about literally it was hundreds of women that exposed some doctor, sexually abused by Larry Nassar, the former USA gymnastics and Michigan State doctor, who in January was sentenced to up to 175 years in prison for molesting hundreds of young women. Hundreds of women. This is just one guy. You think he's the only guy? You think women aren't allowed to testify against others? I mean, why didn't they step forward, right? What caused them to step forward? There's hundreds of women that have been molested. And then finally, they just start stepping forward. Okay? It goes back to, with all due respect, right? I'm not a big fan of, quote unquote, blaming the victim. But they lacked the morality to say, this happened to me. How do I know it's not happening to others? Should I be concerned about what's going to happen to me if I talk? Or should I be more concerned about this continuing and him abusing others? Right? They put their selves above the greater good of humanity, which also means they need to sit down and shut the fuck up when it comes to leadership positions. If you don't have the courage to put everyone above yourself and your family, you shouldn't be a leader. It's a no-brainer. How could anyone see it any other way? You want somebody whose daughter can get kidnapped and all of a sudden they drop a bomb and kill a billion people or something? Or they nuke an entire country, for example. They nuke India completely and kill everybody there? It's a no-brainer. If you can't put the masses over your family, you have no business being powerful. None. For fuck's sake. This is the kind of bitch-made society where I have to explain that. Where people put themselves over hundreds of women and keep silent. There is no excuse for that kind of cowardice. Yes, the guy's a piece of shit, but you are complicit when you help keep his secret. He's a pedophile. He's gonna strike again, especially if he's raped you and sexually molested you or whatever over and over again. What are you, stupid? You're showing him his technique works. The West is a bunch of bitches that show the oppressors time and time again that their techniques can and will work and give them the green light to go forward. That is the culture we live in. And it's because of the corporate greed scale. Now in part 2, I'm going to go over again, this magazine again, Chemical Warfare. It's about gassing and spraying people to terrorize them, to get them to conform to a culture, to cultural values, which is what America does. You think the West never gassed people in World War I in trenches? What the fuck do you think the gas mask came from? What, are you stupid? You think no one's ever thought of that? You think it doesn't have a psychological effect? Are you a fucking idiot? The bottom line is, people aren't as intelligent as I am because morality is a requirement for wisdom. And wisdom is the highest form of intelligence, the highest description of intelligence, if you will. No, they're not as intelligent as I am. And they're not even as intelligent enough to listen to me. So they're not as intelligent as I am, and they don't even know that they should listen to me and not to their dumb-ass selves or some dumb fuck in the media. That's how stupid Westerners are, Americans are. And they're trying to force everyone into the same fucking boat.